Now, what the old people used to say is that we're citizens of the Haudenosaunee, our own government, and we have allegiance and obligations to that government. The way they used to describe it, it's like a circle. You're born inside of this circle. Everything in there is for you, all your beliefs, your language, your traditions, and everything. But if you want to do something else, you have to leave that circle. When you leave the circle, all of your rights, your responsibilities fall back into it. So the idea is that you're supposed to stay within the circle and keep the integrity of the circle. It means you're not supposed to go and vote for another government or take allegiance to there. You're not supposed to do things that violate the principles of that circle. Well, colonization has made that circle kind of a fuzzy thing. When are we in or when are we out or what do we do? How do we remain true to our Haudenosaunee citizenship? And if you take a look at that, then it makes it very difficult because what are the requirements of voting? If Canada requires that you be a Canadian citizen in order to be eligible to vote, well, that challenges our very notion of being Haudenosaunee. And if you give that up, what does that also mean? You're no longer Haudenosaunee, you no longer have any protected treaty rights, you no longer can exist in a community because you become like the outside government. Sometimes I wonder about if we take a two-row strategy. We're in our canoe and they're in their ship. We're not supposed to interfere with each other. Is voting an interference from the people of the canoe trying to tell the people in the ship what to do? We certainly know the other is true. When the people in the ship try to tell us what to do, required to vote as they did in 1924, that's a violation of our cultural, political integrity. So maybe the same is true if we go the other way. There are some people who are saying, well, we have a chance now to influence the way things are going to be. A chance to elect a new prime minister who's going to be more attentive to Indigenous issues. I've heard that argument all my life. Every time there's a new prime minister or a new president running, everybody thinks that somehow it's going to be better. But it always ends up the same. They continue to ignore it. They talk about a new partnership, but where does it get manifested? So we have to be careful not to get involved in the emotions of this all, thinking that somehow our little voice is going to impact on this agenda that Canada has had about the Indigenous people ever since it was a Canada. And that's to deny us, possibly to destroy us. So maybe this call for voting is just another colonized way to get us to relinquish our identity, our citizenship, and to vote for them. So that way, when you cross the border the next time and they say, what is your citizenship? You'd have to say, well, I'm a Canadian because I voted in the Canadian elections. Or you're going to say, no, I'm Haudenosaunee. We're the Six Nations. We're still that. We're still the way it's always been. So it's quite a challenge. I've selected all my life not to vote in municipal or provincial or state or federal elections. Certainly I have my ideas about what candidate I'd like to see in that power. But in the end, I think that power often corrupts, no matter who you put in a position. Because our issues conflict with their issues. Our need for justice conflicts with their sense of justice. Our economic need conflicts with theirs. So it's very hard to trust that any politician is going to keep their word to us after they get elected. The other thing about voting I think we have to be aware of, some people say, well, if there's enough of us voting, we could influence the way an election goes. Well, I've heard that a lot too in my life. And sometimes some people say that it was the native vote in the States that helped to elect Obama as president. But there's a good example. Well, then show me what positive things Obama has done to help to respect native, indigenous sovereignty. It's very hard to come by. So even though he's going to leave office, you say, what's the net result? At least for the Haudenosaunee, we still have problems crossing the border. We still can't use our passport for international flight. We're still not recognized as sovereign governments. So voting could become the most useless thing that you would want to do. But it's also a deceptive thing because you think you're doing good. Maybe the better thing to do is how do we remain strong in our own community? How do we end this battle in our own community between the elected government and the traditional government? How do we become one people again? Because then we can truly have one united voice. But if we believe different things and try different things and experiment with different things, we're always going to be caught in their conflict over who we are. We've got to get back to understanding who we are. Haudenosaunee means one people, one mind, one voice, one law. That's worth voting for.